Make the ground shake.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host Gamer K, and it's time for the final video on the Game Hub for 2020. Oh boy, this has been one hell of a year. It feels like we've had the ups and the downs and the what the hell moments every single month, and kind of like a boss battle. There are times when we're excited to be through it, and then it throws us a giant curveball, and then we have to continue and, well, just go through the same thing again. In retrospect for that, the final video of the year on the Game Hub will be one I've created about 2 years ago before I started my channel, and I've been dreading doing it. I mean, 2 years ago I did my best boss fights, and like I said, if I ever have to do a good video, I have to do a bad one in contrast, and this one I've been dreading. Now, I have updated a little bit since the year started, so it's a little bit of the old stuff when it first started to some of the new stuff. Now, so as you can guess, this is Gamer K's top 13 worst boss fights. And as always in my top 13s, I have a couple rules. One boss battle per game, per series. So, yeah, I always keep that rule just so I don't have to talk about the same game numerous times in one list. Rule number 2, only games I've played and boss battles I've beaten. Which, in retrospect, means since I never beat Kingdom Hearts 1, I can't really put the final boss Ansem on any of the lists. And also, just because a boss battle is terrible does not does not formally mean the game is bad. Good games can have boss fights, and bad games can have good boss fights. Unfortunately, the latter is so far in between that it's rarely ever talked about. So let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. 2020 ends with Gamer K's top 13 worst boss battles. And why top 13? Because here, only the odd can become number 1. So starting off the list at number 13 is a game that I reviewed earlier this year, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien Cosmic Destruction. And because it is a beat 'em up game, I would expect some of the bosses to be a little bit easy, not that difficult. And the one near the end of the game is by far the worst fight to battle, and that is in the Tokyo level, Cooper. For Ben 10 fans, Cooper is a little boy who is part cyborg. Can't really remember why, and he returns in Ultimate Alien and Alien Force half the time. And being controlled by the evil Waybig, he is set up in a factory, and it's not even a boss fight. It just isn't. All we gotta do is just go through this obstacle course of a factory, and using Spider Monkey, Armadillo, and NRG most of the time to kind of get through all the mechanics and dodging the attacks, and as we destroy the area, we're hurting Cooper. So it's basically one of those environmental boss fights where you just hit stuff in the level, and it pretty much ends. I mean, it doesn't just end. I mean, we got to get to him and dodge the attacks and then hit him a couple times. But it's just a boss fight that feels like a mini game more than a boss fight. And for a beat 'em up game, there's very less beat 'em up happening in it. So he starts off the list because even though he's terrible, he's not absolutely dreadful. Number 12. One of the games I really love is the Mega Man series. For Game Boy and DS, not on the Nintendo consoles. And one series I really loved was Mega Man Star Force, which was my first introduction to the new breed of Mega Man. Sadly, the anime did not shoot for the stars more than the games did. And the second boss in the first game is Cygnus Wing, who is Cygnus taking on Tom Dubious, engineer at the parody of NASA, I can't remember the name of it, it's been so long, who is always mistrusting of others because one time ago, a friend of his stole his invention and took the credit. And thinking his new friend Aaron is doing the same, Cygnus plays off of all those negative and distrustful emotions to transform him into Cygnus Wing. Boss battle is okay. I mean, he shoots feathers at you, he does a ballerina pirouette, and releases 2 black swans and a white swan. Shooting the white swan clears open the path so you don't get hit. The one thing why Cygnus Wing is on this list, even though he's one of my favorites, is he's the only boss in the game that, except for Heart Note, who doesn't have an elemental weakness. Yeah, he's just bland. Well, I guess when you're a swan, you kind of have to be. But I was hoping him to be like a water boss, because the only water bosses are usually the optional bosses. But yeah, Cygnus Wing does his final swan song because he sucks. Command number 11. Last month, I reviewed one of my favorite games of the year, No Straight Roads, and I complimented on all the boss fights and their genre of music. But if I had to pick one boss fight that is definitely the worst out of the bunch, Vocaloid Mermaid Xiii. Yeah, she's cute, and the level is pretty cool being a digital C, but is it a boss fight? Basically, throughout the game, we're just destroying computer chips that her voice artist, the artist itself, the programmer, and the motion capture guy, all we're doing is just destroying their computer chips so they lose control of Xiii. And every time we do that, we get a little bit harder. And again, we're not even fighting Xiii. We're not, which, all honesty, sucks. We're fighting the environment more than we're fighting her. And at the end of the level, at the end of the battle, it's just a chase scene afterwards where we have to go back the way we came. And then she's turned into a reverse mermaid, and then we get to start shooting her. It's literal. I like the concept of Xiii. I just wish the boss fight was better. I mean, I guess for a virtual idol, fighting the creators is technically the only way to beat something like that, but I just wish that we had to fight her a little bit and our attacks weren't working, and then we figure out we have to defeat the artists, the programmers, and not the artist itself. It would have been done better, but no, right at the get-go, we have to destroy the artists immediately. So it was a cool final performance, but the encore was lacking a lot. Command number 10, the Ghostbusters video game. Not the 2016 version. No. I refuse to play that on principle. The good Ghostbusters game from 2009. And the remaster version. If you haven't picked it up, go get it. It's the only good Ghostbusters game. But unfortunately, like I said, every great game can have one terrible fight in it. So, which one's it gonna be? How about a boss fight where you're hanging off the side of a building and just shooting the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? Yeah, I was expecting a lot greater from the big villain of the movie, but unfortunately, it's basically a King Kong kind of thing. Stay Puft is climbing to the edge of the building we're on, and we're hanging over it with Ray hanging onto our belt. And the only thing we can do is just proton stream all the burnt marshmallows, and then Photon Dart, which is the giant energy ball, at Stay Puft's face whenever he gets tired. It's easy to telegraph the attacks here. For one, Stay Puft will blow in the fires to create the mini marshmallows, and then he'll give that exhausted look when that's your cue to shoot him in the face. And yeah, the boss fight takes about doesn't take that long. It takes about 3 blasts while you're streaming him in order to turn him into s'mores for the rest of the Manhattan. Coming at number 9. I never beat this boss fight when I was a kid because I was always scared of the first game. But the Spyro Reignited Trilogy was definitely the best thing that could ever happen for me because it basically gave me a chance to play all the games that I never ever beat and actually beat them. And the worst boss fight in the Spyro series, I know it's kind of a hit and miss with some of them, but from Spyro the Dragon, Metalhead. Yeah, the giant robot, which does nothing but shoot lasers. It's kind of a boring boss fight, too. All you gotta do is just headbutt all the generators when they're green, and then he'll run, and then you do it again, and then he dies. Like, really? This was the best they could do? Okay, to be fair, the game did come out, like, in the 90s, so boss fights weren't really that key for kids' games. But still, they could have done it a lot better than this. Metalhead, you're sent to the scrapyard with a good number of robotic boss fights that were terrible. Come on, number 8. We're halfway through the list, ladies and gentlemen. Well, almost halfway. Fairly Odd Parents Shadow Showdown. One of my favorite games as a child, and definitely on one of my favorite shows. It definitely captured the love that I had for this game. Unfortunately, even though I had some negative things about it, one of the things is some of the boss fights. Whether we're just shooting a pattern at someone, getting chased by a robot. Seriously, what is being chased? What is the fear? Oh, right, kids, being chased. That is kind of a fear. Near the end of the game, the boss fight that gets on the list is Vicky. Yeah, it's not really much of a boss fight either. Basically, Vicky's in the center of a room in a giant tower with lasers. How do we stop it? Well, using the gamma suit to see all the invisible floor that's in the arena, we hit 3 switches that releases a pinball launcher, go into the pinball launcher, and then just bash into the tower. Upon doing that, random lasers will destroy the platform, so you really gotta be careful where you're walking through the next couple times. Do this 4 times, and the boss battle is over. Dodging the lasers is honestly very, very easy, and there's little to no challenge in it whatsoever. I mean, unless you're bad at platforming games, then I guess that's your only way to die. And also, if you get hit too many times, your gamma suit will give in and you'll fall through the floor. Luckily, unlike the first game, there is no starting over. You can just keep going until, the end of eternity. So yeah, that boss fight gets on here because it was such a cool concept, but it was as easy as destroying the Death Star. Number 7, Assassin's Creed series has become one of my absolute favorite game series of all time. So, a lot of people are thinking, what is the worst boss fight? Well, this takes a couple cliches. Let's see. Obvious murder, finding murderer, confronting an old friend, and basically ending with a BS death scene. From one of the worst Assassin's Creeds in the series, Pierre Balek from Assassin's Creed Unity. Did anyone see that? Did anyone kind of picture, like, in the big cliches of Assassin's Creed, that we were going to have to kill the mentor soon because they did it in 1, they did it in 3, where we had to kill a friend, we had to kill friends in 4, Rogue, we had to literally kill everyone. And in Liberation, we had to kill our mentor. Spoilers, sorry. But yeah, Pierre Balek gets on this list because he's such a poorly done reveal. I mean, we're on top of the Notre Dame, I think. Notre Dame? One of the French buildings. I can't remember which ones. But this whole thing is out of left field because it's revealed that he kills Mirabeau because he doesn't agree that we should kind of see some middle ground with the Templars, and he hates the fact that our girlfriend is basically a Templar, and he kills Mirabeau because he thinks he's a fool. So we fight him on the top of the building, and basically we just got Pierre, clever, his attacks in order to deal damage afterwards. And then we go ramming through the stained glass window, and we fall into the church. Do a bit more, and then we end him by sticking the blade into his neck. And then we see his whole motivation, everything, and how he knew whose son we were. The Unity was just a big mess. Can we just forget it and just forget? Easy to forget Paris because the game sucked. The boss battle sucked. So let's continue. Coming in number 6. Smash Bros. Brawl was my very first Smash Bros. Game. And honestly, it was pretty epic. It was. Except for the main villain being an absolute mystery and giving no context because there's no talking in this game. But the boss battle in this game that is absolutely the worst for me is about halfway through the game on Meta Knight's giant ship. I don't know what it's called. I'm not that much of a big Nintendo lore dude. Duo-Sun. That giant Mr. Game & Watch collaboration that turns into a two and a half of a boss fight, which is basically one with swords, one with cannons, and they've got the yin-yang wheel. It basically looks like two rhinos stuck together, one with swords and one with cannons. I mean, you get to pick who you want in this boss fight, which is okay. But the boss fight itself is pretty bland. I mean, all they do is charge at you, slash, shoot, and then do that jump thing where they spin around and switch sides. Yeah, the boss fight is pretty lame and pretty... I mean, it's a cool monster. I'm gonna give it props for character design, but as a whole, the boss fight was pretty lacking. Kind of like a good majority of the ones in Smash Bros. Brawl. That, my opinion, just gonna say. Coming at number 5. Another one of my favorite games, which is a very bizarre game that not a lot of people talk about, Puppeteer. And after going through the review and praising all the boss fights for their bigger than life scale and all the patterns you need to do and just the sheer size of you to the boss fight, every boss fight was a joy, except for General Monkey, the last one to fight before the main villain. Yeah, Monkey was honestly one of the better villains of the game, tricking Kudero near halfway through and collecting all the moon shards that we've gathered, and then being the Moonbear King's right-hand man, you'd think he'd be a better boss. He is not. After squandering the shards in his creation of General Robodog, and after we defeat Dragon, Monkey goes into hiding in the snow part of the moon, where we go into the molten crater in his lair, and then is the worst boss fight in the game. I mean, at least with General Rat, we at least got to fight him in some shape or form. But it's basically that travel along the line area and jump and dodge. And all we gotta do is just cut the constellations and they will damage him for us. Like, we don't even get to hit him and we don't even get a QTE cutscene. I mean, obviously Rat didn't get one because it was so easy. But at least Monkey could have gotten one. I mean, another wasted opportunity near the end of a game. So yeah, Monkey deserves the 5th spot on the list for being so amazingly built up as a cool boss, as a cool general, and then they literally monkey around his boss fight. Yeah. Coming in number 4. I don't have a lot to say in Watch Dogs 1, except Clara and T-Bone. Though Aiden was such a bore. Lucky Quinn was an absolute bore. Like I said in my top 13 worst video game villains list. Go check that out. But in terms of a boss fight, same thing to be done with General Monkey. How cool he was built up to be. You think the boss fight would be amazing. And entering the only other villain in Watch Dogs 1 that I actually wanted to see be better was actually turned out to be nothing. Iraq from Watch Dogs 1. Iraq was such a cool cyber terrorist. He was so cool, like, from the way he treated his minions. Him being in an abandoned apartment complex made for a really, really cool seek and destroy kind of stealth area. And from almost killing his cousin Bedbug because he thought he was betraying him. Which, I love it. I love his design, but the boss fight is just lame. I mean, we go to the roof, we're trapped on the roof, and he constantly taunts us via the PA system, and then we just kill generic enemies. Even the giant, heavily armored dude, where we just hack into the electrical area and blow it up, and that takes care of him. And then all we gotta do is just kill Iraq after he comes out of his hiding hole, and that's it. Like, he's not wearing armor. It's not a real fun fight. That's why first-person shooter games, I don't really... Well, not first-person shooter, but games like Watch Dogs, I don't like the boss fights because all they are is just waiting to get that perfect shot off, and it's not done very well. I mean, for such a cool character like Iraq, there's no real intense moments. Nothing. I mean, he's mocking us and everything, but that's it. Another wasted opportunity gone down the drain. Now we reach the top 3, ladies and gentlemen, and oh boy, do these 3 have earned this list and more. Coming at number 3, Kingdom Hearts 3, 13 years in the making, and it was fantastic. It was spectacular. The only thing I could have done, I mean, a good majority of the bosses were epic as hell, and I did die a good bunch on some of them. But if there's one boss that I didn't care for that looked really cool, comes in the one level of the game where I really didn't like. I didn't really love that much. From the Caribbean, the Raging Vulture. While the electric angler in the first part of the level was cool, being an underwater boss fight, so we had different tactics and everything, that actually impressed me. The Raging Vulture, oh no wait, the Raging Vulture was the first boss fight. So yeah, Raging Vulture is the worst. After we return to the land of the living, the Vulture is there to greet us, which kind of looks like Ruler of the Skies from 358 Days Over 2 with a giant makeover. Basically, the Vulture is this giant bombarding vulture, and it shoots out these mini creatures that we have to get on and start going into a plane battle and shoot them, And then we get onto the Raging Vulture's back, where we just hit the head, where it's just looking there like an idiot, and then put up a barrier when it breathes fire. Do this a good number of times, but the problem with this boss fight is that it's mostly in the air. It's all in the air, and we gotta ride the airlines, get on top of the smaller creatures, and just fly and shoot. I mean, it's everything the Ruler of the Sky was, but a little bit better, because at least it's not slow. I mean, at least we're not slow as heck in this. But again, for the Caribbean level, I expected a lot more, but no. Raging Vulture definitely sinks, and it definitely doesn't swim. Did we even get an animation for it dying? I miss those when we get animations for all the Heartless dying and the heart comes out. I really miss that. But yeah, the Vulture is the worst Kingdom Hearts boss fight for Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah. Coming at number 2, another game from my childhood, that I definitely was regretting to review, and after going through so much, I can finally put this guy on the list. Power Rangers Dino Thunder was one of my favorites growing up. One of my first Power Rangers after Ninja Storm. But Zeltrax gets on the list. Both of his boss fights, because they're the same. They're the exact same. I mean, yeah, you get to be the Megazord for these boss fights, but it doesn't feel like a boss fight. I mean, it doesn't feel like a Megazord fight where you just keep hitting him and then you do your special move. But no, what we do is we gotta be careful in the tar pits because we can't jump. We have to wait till he shoots his mines at us and raises his axe for a glowing energy charge, which is, all honesty, like solar beam, but stupid. And then we gotta shoot him with that to stun him, and then getting close and use Tyranno Drill in order to hit him. Do that 3 times, and the boss fight is over. And then, the end of the game in the volcano, he reappears. The only difference is, we get to use the Dimetrozord Saw attack, which isn't any different. We just do the exact same thing. Wait for the mines to be dropped, shoot him when he's charging, get in close, and saw his head off. Not literally, but yeah. For a game that was already kind of dull and bland a little bit for when I was a kid, Zeltrax is the cherry on top of a shitty sundae, and it shows in his boss fight, being repetitive, not that much challenging, and for being a Power Rangers game, you'd think those Megazord fights would be better than the actual Zords, and it wasn't. So, Dino Rangers may roar, but these Rangers definitely didn't score. Okay, we've reached the number 1 of the list, and this definitely is the worst boss fight I can ever put on a list. I mean, except for worst final bosses, which will probably be next year. So, the Arkham series. When you think of the Arkham series, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a bit of a minute. Think what boss fight either fits some of the criteria from these other bosses. For example, let's see. Built up, amazing villain, but they really tanked his boss fight. Did you guys put down Electrocutioner from Art Origins? No. Because at least I thought he was going to be a easy fight to begin with, to be honest. But no, it's the final game of the series, Deathstroke from Arkham Knight. How? Okay, so throughout this entire game, we've been doing tank battles for a majority of the game as a side mission, and for a majority of main missions, and also for fighting the Arkham Knight. So, you thought putting the Master Assassin, Deathstroke, who gave us one of the greatest boss fights in Arkham Origins, it would be hand-to-hand combat, countering the sword attacks, his launcher that he had that we then took. That was amazing. And you thought putting him in a overly souped up tank was gonna be a boss fight to redeem him? No! No and a half. Okay, who else thought, like, once the tank was destroyed and Deathstroke jumping out, that the real battle was going to begin? Like, we were going to have to scour the city and chase him down onto a rooftop and then go mano a mano. But no, we jump out of our Batmobile and strike him, and then we put him in the back and take him as easily as we took Riddler. It's not the fact that he wasn't the main villain that makes this boss fight, or that he was just a surprise villain near the end of the game because the Arkham Knight kind of defected. The big insult is because he had such an amazing boss fight in a spin-off game that wasn't really in the trilogy. And also they dumbed him down to a generic enemy with this dumb tank battle. That's what gets Deathstroke from Arkham Knight on the top of the worst boss list. And that is a big insult to the... So, to quote Joker from the game, so at what point does the world's greatest assassin... Wait, what was it? Take two. So at what point does the title World's Greatest Assassin just become false advertising? False advertising. I did not plan that joke for this shirt for people who are big Ruby fans. But yeah, Deathstroke. Hopefully your boss fights are better in the future, my friend. Because your gang, yeah, it's not looking good. And that's it for this. That's it for the year, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And next week, it's a brand new year and some brand new videos. Well, some of them are old that I haven't gotten to yet, but it's going to be a new year in the Game Hub, and I'm really hoping for something amazing to happen next year. And to start off the new year, I'm going to be doing a ranking video, so on some amazing riders. This is Gamer K, logging out.